Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So in this video, we are going to be talking about something that has never happened with the Federal Reserve. Now, if you have been following me on my channel for any length of time, you have heard me talk about the recessionless recession. And a recessionless recession is pretty unique in the idea behind how it occurred, considering what was taking place during the COVID pandemic. So the stimulus packages that had taken place during the pandemic had given the savings rate of households an extreme amount to carry them through what would typically have been experiencing a recession. See, like everybody was calling for a recession in like 2023, 2024. Even now, they're still calling for a recession. And people kept asking me, is there going to be a recession? And so I said, well, no, we're going to have a recessionless recession. And a lot of people thought that that was a goofy statement. But then when you think about how this occurred, when you think about how this stimulus package had been handed out to the people, savings rates had increased. And then corporations were given a bailout. And not a lot of people are aware of the bailout that had happened. And it was through the special purpose vehicles. So now, during the pandemic, the Federal Reserve, in conjunction with the Treasury, had set up a special purpose vehicle to backstop just about every single corner of the financial market, including the corporate debt lending facility. Now, the corporate debt lending facility was going to be buying corporate debt. The moment the information got out there to the public, the people, like the markets, freaked out and started trying to front run the Federal Reserve by going out there and buying that corporate debt. Now, by the time the Federal Reserve actually had that facility up and running, most of those corporations had found all the funding they needed. Now, interest rates at the time were incredibly low, and those corporations gorged on incredibly cheap debt. Now, what took place during that time is that there was an extreme amount of corporate investment that had started to take place, and a lot of that went into the hiring of people. So we saw the unemployment drop dramatically. Right? People were going out there. When you have like all this money of abundance, when you just sold off all this corporate debt, now you got to go someplace with that money. And this is where we found the extreme shortage in labor markets. Now, if you go and you look at the Federal Reserve chart that I leave down in the description, and it's the chart of unemployment. Now, when the unemployment rate, if you look throughout history, comes to a recession, it rises right into the recession. So ultimately, you had high unemployment that fell to the low, found its bottom, and the moment that it started to tick up, it jumped into a recession. Now, this is what a lot of people had thought was going to take place back in 2022, 2023, going into 2024, is that this slow increase in unemployment was going to lead right into recessionary expectations, right, that we had experienced from history. Now, just go and look at the chart. Every single time, they're like without fail, that once the unemployment had peaked, fallen down to its low, the moment that it started to rise, went right into recession. Very short-lived recession. Usually the unemployment would continue to rise after that, and then again, you would start to see unemployment fall. And again, this is going all the way back through history. But if you had a position in the economy in which that unemployment wasn't going to rise significantly. Now, what would prevent this unemployment from rising significantly? I mean, I think about it. Like, look at one of the. Okay, this is this is what. Let me back it up here just a little bit because I have to take it to this article right here, and this is how you know, like, the mainstream media is just pure propaganda, right? It says right here, over 7 million Americans are unemployed, the most since 2017. Why won't it get any better? Why won't it get better anytime soon? 2017, the unemployment was really, really low, right? Over historical charts, if you go and look, in 2017, unemployment was really low. In fact, Donald Trump was bragging it up as being some of the best jobs numbers in history during that time. So for this article to kind of give it this idea that it's like, oh man, scary event that is happening here, we still have historically low unemployment numbers, although they are rising. My point being is that typically we would have seen a recession. However, if you already have corporations that are bailed out and you already have the people sitting on a bunch of cash, which, you know, I don't know how much a bunch of cash really is, but you had household savings that had been elevated, then you can coast through the recession without actually having a recession. That's what we had experienced. That's why nothing made sense. Like the Somme rule didn't work, and the inverted yield curve hasn't proven itself. And I know, give it time, people are saying, well, there will be a recession. You're right, there will be. There's a recession every 7 to 12 years. In fact, and generally it's less than that. So when you think about how it is that a recession comes and goes, what we had experienced was essentially recessionary pressures. However, if it was already pre-bailed out because of the COVID pandemic, like remember, COVID was the quickest, shortest, deepest recession in history. And the extreme amount of effort that went into the shortest, quickest, deepest recession in history was overwhelming. So that carried on through what people would have anticipated here. Now, something that I find interesting also, let me read this. Let me go back into this article. It says, the number of people who said that they were unemployed in May jumped to an 8-year high if the pandemic era is excluded, right? Yeah, because the pandemic, everybody went home, offering clear evidence that jobs have become harder to find during the chaotic period for the U.S. economy. So this chaotic period has jobs harder to find, even though in 2017 it was some of the best jobs numbers in history. See, this is how you know, this is how you know the mainstream media propaganda is just evident when you read stuff like this. But however, what did we get today? U.S. payrolls increased 139,000 in May, more than expected. Unemployment at 4.2%. So again, this is low. This is historically low numbers. And when you think about how it is that we have continued to push the elevated inflation expectations into this, we don't have to worry about finding a bunch of jobs now. Right. We've gone through this recessionless recession, right? Because essentially what we had experienced would have been a recession, but with people already pre-bailed out and corporations bailed out, we didn't experience it. So the recessionless recession that nobody experienced, which essentially should have taken place, has now gotten to the end of that, right? Like as if the recession had really occurred. We are at the end of the recession. And what do we see? We see jobs numbers. We don't have to find a bunch of jobs. We have the neutral interest rate is elevated. The Federal Reserve is in a position for stimulating, right? All we have to have is a problem with either inflation moving back up in a reality, not just inflation expectations, but the inflation for reality. And we have the jobs numbers break down, and we would see the Federal Reserve lower rates. I don't see how either one of those things are taking place. Right now, they have all the power in the world to stimulate the economy by lowering interest rates back to the lower bound of zero. Why would they do it? If their mandate is to have full employment, which here we are sitting, even by the article trying to show it being a bad number, is actually even proves itself to be a good number, being, what was it, the 7 million people unemployed, the worst since 2017 when Donald Trump was bragging it up being the best jobs numbers at the time. And here we are sitting in a position in which that the inflation is coming down. You can see that evident everywhere. They're talking about disinflation in all kinds of places. So I think about how it is that the Federal Reserve has actually got their ammo back. They have positioned themselves exactly the way that they said that they were going to do it. And so many people out there thinking, like even Donald Trump saying they're too late. And I'm thinking, too late for what? The economy is becoming less restricted. The unemployment rate is still historically low. Disinflation everywhere. Like, how could you say that they messed up? Look, I got a hat on that says "End the Fed." I'm not a fan of the central bank. I'm not a fan of it at all. In fact, if it was up to me, I would much rather be dealing in gold and silver and cryptocurrencies. I'd rather be dealing with a limited government. I would rather be dealing with a government that honored constitutional rights and honored my personal rights and freedoms. But unfortunately, we don't live in that country. So I have to understand what it is that the Federal Reserve is planning on doing with their monetary policy so I can position myself accordingly for it. And as I started studying monetary policy, I realized nobody understands it except for the Federal Reserve and their speeches to the other central bankers out there. But outside of that communication, I can't find a single thing that communicates monetary policy accurately. Not a single thing. Everybody out there seems to get it wrong. And I don't mean to be like, hey, I'm some super genius or anything like that. I've broken down every one of these speeches in this theory in detail so many times. So many times. Like probably hundreds of hours of breaking this theory down, getting down into the fine little details of it. And so when I see how it is that the Federal Reserve is now in a position in which that they literally got their ammunition back, like they can lower interest rates back to the lower bound and get significantly below neutral interest rate and stimulate the economy. But even better yet, if they continue to push an elevated inflation expectation, the neutral interest rate will just move above the Fed funds rate and they can stimulate the economy all on its own. They don't have to move at all. Nobody talks like this. Nobody out there in the news, nobody explains it this way. Yeah. But look at the charts. Look at the chart that I left down in the description. It shows every time the unemployment rises, it goes right into a recession, but not this time. It's the only time it didn't work. And so as I think about what it is we can expect for the future, yeah, don't expect unemployment to get any better. It doesn't matter if it gets any better or gets any worse. A good job sucks anyway, right? What does it say here? Hold on, let me back it up. Let's go and read that article some more. I think that was a good one. It was all doom and gloomy. Doom and gloomy. Did I use up my articles? Darn it. Oh, bummer. Oh, do I have? Maybe it's quick read. Oh, I don't. Oh, sorry, guys. I used up my free subscription, and I have to pay from this point on. Darn paywalls. Just like the Uneducated Economist and those member-only live streams, right? Got to pay $1 to watch it. Same thing. Oh, man, guys, it's amazing what I see it out there, and I see it so obvious. You know, when I break it, ever since I broke down that first speech way back in the day, monetary policy strategies for a low neutral interest rate world. I mean, it was like shortly after the speech was given, and I recorded it. Like, and it's so funny because I go back and I watch the videos and I watch myself like reading that speech and trying to break it down, and I had no clue about what I was reading. And I think that's one of the things that I think is great about this channel and where we've grown to is that I think anybody who goes back and watches, who's knowing where we are today, like the people who have followed, like understand the credible threat theory, understand where we've gotten to today. I think those people, if they were to go back and watch that original Federal Reserve speech breakdown that I had done on monetary policy strategies for a low neutral interest rate world, not only would they probably find it one of the most comical videos that I've done because it's just so like I have no clue about what was happening, and then I was really trying to understand it. I mean, I understand it, and I could get like some like what it was, that the gist of it, but I didn't quite get it. And the more I broke it down, the more I understood it. The more that time went on, the more I realized it was just like, oh wow, communication is everything in this. And it's all about perception and how it is that people are feeling about where it is that the future monetary policy is going to be headed, where inflation is headed, and how it is that they control that. And having like essentially their own words describing that is, I think, really unique to this channel and only this channel. Like anybody could go get it from the Federal Reserve. Like that's where all the information comes from about monetary policy. It's not like anybody else comes up with monetary policy except for the Federal Reserve, right? So if somebody's like, well, you shouldn't be listening to the Fed, it was just like they're the only ones in charge of monetary policy. Nobody else is. Anybody else who says anything about monetary policy is just an opinion about what they are doing. So like monetary policy from the Federal Reserve's own communication is absolutely the most critical way of looking, important way of looking at it, because any other information is going to be distorted, even mine. Like even the way I describe it, that's why I try to read from the speeches as many times as I can so that you can get it from that perspective, from them, right? Now, I can't help it. I have to put my opinion in. Like I can't take the information in and then talk about it and not interject an opinion to it. It's just going to happen no matter what. But when you understand it, when you break it down, when you take it in for yourself, then you'll look at it in a whole different light. You look at all these speeches from, or not even the speeches, like think about how many, maybe you don't follow, I don't know, how many people from the Federal Reserve have come out in the like last 3, 4 weeks and used the word uncertainty. Like every single one of them. It was like the key word, the word of the day, uncertainty. You know, like you remember Pee Wee's Playhouse when they would pick a word for the day and then like, you know, when they said it, everybody would scream in the room. That was uncertainty. That's uncertainty. Yeah, right? Everybody loves uncertainty. So having this fear, uncertainty, and doubt is definitely the way that they have pushed the not only like my credible threat theory, but how they push this narrative in the direction in which that then guides the markets to where they want it to be. And I know that sounds crazy to think, but it's true. And you know, again, we've read it from their own words. Let me see. Right here. This is coming from Philip Jefferson. Right? Isn't that Philip Jefferson, Textual Analysis of Central Banking Communications? Again, this is directly from the Federal Reserve, Federal Open Market Committee voting member. He says, using textual analysis, high-frequency asset price data, and high-frequency central bank communications, this research shows that investors' reactions to specific sentences communicated by the central bank are quickly incorporated into asset prices. So no, they know exactly the words to use. And then what I find interesting about it is like I don't even think the Federal Reserve itself is doing it. Like I know they are doing it because I mean I pick it out and I show you. I mean I try to pinpoint it when I see it and bring it to you and bring it to attention. But really, I think like honestly, they pay these bigwig economists who come out there on CNBC or whatever, Bloomberg. I think that they pay them to use specific sentences so that the markets hear them, like these credible people, right? Using that credible threat. And it's not just the Federal Reserve doing it. I believe it's these other economists using that mainstream propaganda machine in order to propagate this thing. And again, it's quickly incorporated into asset prices. So knowing like that in itself, just knowing that little tiny piece of information is like, it's probably overwhelming for a lot of people to even like, oh my God, the Fed uses specific sentences to guide prices. I mean, that's just a little tiny piece of this, right? I mean, that right there might blow a lot of people's mind. And like, it's just like, that is just a small portion of how this works. Now, what does it say here? Policymakers know that their communications are likely to affect the course of short-term interest rates, other asset prices, and the associated economic outlook, resulting in an easing or tightening of financial conditions. This is another very, very important thing to try and understand. Policymakers know that their communications are likely to affect the course of short-term interest rates, other asset prices, and the associated economic outlook, resulting in an easing or tightening of financial conditions. Remember, they haven't moved interest rates. This is just communications. You see this? This is how they're operating now. To understand it, that they don't need to move interest rates anymore. In fact, interest rates became an ineffective tool for over a decade. They learned how to use monetary policy without interest rate adjustments. It's through communications. Okay? And it's not just like, I mean, again, this is speeches that we have broken down so many times. This is coming from right here, again, a Jefferson speech given not too long ago. Expectations become a focal point in academic and policy circles with the emergence of the new Keynesian models in the 1990s as a framework for monetary policy. In these models, aligning the expectations of decision makers in the private sector with those of the policymakers produces superior economic outcomes. Superior economic outcomes. Aligning these expectations with the policymakers. Aligning the decision makers with the policymakers. Mike Woodford, one of the developers of the new Keynesian model, put it this way: not only do expectations about policy matter, but very little else matters. Think about that, how incredible that really is. I know I've read this hundreds of times, but the more I read it, I know that there's people out there, the more they're getting it. And I know there's new people who are joining the channel every single day trying to learn this credible threat theory, trying to figure out what it is that's going on within the economy. They are so lost on a lot of ideas on what's happening out there. But then when you look at this monetary policy to understand what's going on within the economy, it makes so much more sense. And it's not the monetary policy that you think. It's not the one that's being spread on mainstream media. I don't care. A single word on mainstream media is propagandized. Every single one. There's not one that's telling the clear truth. Even these speeches aren't necessarily that clear. But when you start reading hundreds and hundreds of them, dating back all the way to the early 2000s, then you kind of get a gist of what they were doing and saying. All right, 20 minutes into it. What else we got here? Let's talk about some stuff. I'm gonna back it up. All right. What does that say? Hangry old man. I'm just waiting for the soap opera administration to be over. See, I think this is part of the. I think this is part of it. Like, honestly, it's like I think it's distraction. I think it's distraction so that you don't get it clue in to the reality. Like you think like the economy is deteriorating and that it's getting harder. Donald Trump is scared. He wants the interest rates to fall so that, everything can get better. But very few people are looking at the economy and saying, hey, it's getting less restricted and that the upper 10% are buying into more luxuries, buying, more stuff. They're doing more consuming, right? They do 50% of the consuming when 30 years ago they only did 30% of the consuming. Talking about the top 10% of the wealth of the household's income. See, this is like the situation we now face. When you understand from the Cantillon effect, then it makes all the sense in the world. See, it's hard to see it from the Cantillon effect because Cantillon was hundreds of years ago, where he used horses and wagons and silver and talked about mines and shipping and stuff like that. Using sailcrafts and like I don't know, it was all like old ancient stuff. But the underlying economic forces that he was describing, those didn't change. Those underlying economic forces still exist, and people want to blame it on politics, and they want to blame it on all kinds of stuff that's out there. We want to blame it on greed and corporations that are being greedy and just bad decision making and all kinds of stuff. And yet, the exact thing that they are describing as the problem, manufacturing's leaving, foreign production coming in, this is all described. I mean, Cantillon describes it very clearly that that's what's going to take place. That if you increase your standard of living, you increase your luxurious experiences, you will increase your foreign purchases or the purchases of foreign production, and you will lose your manufacturing base. I mean, he describes it straight up. Like, here, hold on. I don't even have to get that deep into it. Let me go find it real quick for you. Here. It's go and find the essay. The essay is linked down in the description for you guys. There's an Amazon affiliate link. And that Amazon affiliate link will lead to the essay where you can go and purchase it. I will get a little commission if you go and purchase that essay off of Amazon, but you do not have to purchase that essay off of Amazon. You can go and get the essay for free at the Mises Institute. Just go and click on the link to learn how to spell Cantillon essay, right? And then go and find that link from the Mises Institute. That'll give you the ability to download this essay and read it completely for free. Now, if you don't want to read the entire essay, which I suggest you should read the entire essay, it's really good. It is hard to get through at times, all right? I will admit that. But it's so good, and it has such good information inside of it. Go to chapter 6, 7, and 8 in part 2 of the essay. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. All right, part 2. And go to 6, 7, and 8. Oh, I'm at 5. Okay. And now I think it's chapter 8. Yeah. Okay, now chapter 8 after they're all three chapters, it's further reflections on the increase and decrease of money in the state. So the increase and decrease of money in the state, so good. 3 chapters, must read, absolute must read. Okay. Increases in the supply of money from a balance of trade. Now, increase of the balance of trade means, like, you have increased your production and you are now sending it out there to the world, and your world is sending you money. The increase in the supply of money from a balance of trade, right, eventually causes prices to rise. Now, why does this take place? When you increase your domestic production, distribute that out there to the world sends you the money. Once you get the money, what do you want to do? Right? You want nicer house, nicer car, nicer clothing, nicer food, nicer vacations, nicer view. Everything wants to be nicer. You start to increase your standard of living. Now, once you start increasing your consumption and everybody else is doing it at the same time, you get supply-demand imbalances. Prices start to move up. See, new money coming into the system doesn't necessarily cause prices to go up. It's new money coming into the system adding to the consumption, and the added consumption causes supply-demand imbalances. And this is what causes prices to rise. This in turn put pressures on domestic producers, right? This in turn puts pressure on domestic producers and increases imports every single time. If you increase your standard of living, you increase that consumption, you increase the prices, foreign production's going to start showing up. Cantillon described it hundreds of years ago. No point in blaming anybody on it. It's an economic force, right? It's natural human behavior causing this to take place. It's no one to blame, right? I mean, just blame people from wanting to drive a nice car instead of a 97 Suburban, right? All right. So this result, I'll give them my glasses. There we go. This result is that a balance of trade is reduced and eventually is negative. This is Cantillon price specie flow mechanism, which demonstrates the reason for the tendency for equilibrium in international monetary flows. Now, I know there was a lot of words inside of that, but ultimately what he is saying is that once you have increased your foreign purchases, right, you will eventually reach a limit where you'll start redistributing the money back out there to the rest of the world, and your purchases will slow down. This is the equilibrium that is found. Right? So this is Cantillon price specie flow mechanism, which demonstrates the reason for the tendency for equilibrium in international monetary flows. The balance of trade can result in economic power, right? Once you are a producer, you produce all the world's greatest stuff. You send that stuff out there to the world, you become an economic powerhouse. Right? Manufacturing powerhouse, economic powerhouse, you get all the money. The balance of trade can result in economic power, but this also causes the economy to lapse into luxury and decline. Now, he has a whole chapter written on that right there. 6, 7, and 8 describe it. If you move into a luxurious experience, you will suffer the consequences from it. Now, when you happen to live in a country that exists during a time in which that you are rising as a manufacturing powerhouse, and your granddaddy was able to work at the factory and produce all the income that was needed for the entire household, and he was like saying, man, everybody has to work hard. I worked hard. My father worked hard, and you're going to have to work hard, and your kids are going to have to work hard, but the kid doesn't have to live in that same economy. See, that economy was a producer-saver economy. Well, now we're debtor consuming. There's debtor consumers, debtors and consumers. Well, think about who's in debt and who it is that's consuming. So you got capitalists and property owners who are consuming 50%, and then you got a bunch of debtors who are consuming. See, this is how the separation really took place. It started off when the gold standard separated everybody by increasing our production, moving that production out to the world. That world sent us the money. We increased our standard of living. Once we increased our standard of living, foreign production said, hey, we'll take that gold back. And Nixon said, no, you won't. We're going to sever ourselves from the gold standard. We're going to keep it, and you're going to go on a fiat currency. Wouldn't you much rather have this paper? And everybody said no. But they didn't have a choice. They wanted to eat, they wanted to do transactions, and the dollars were already in circulation, and they were so plentiful and around the world that people didn't really have much of a choice. They didn't want it. There was a time back then the Carter administration was suffering consequences big time because of this. You know, there was something called Carter bonds. Carter bonds were bonds that were issued in a foreign currency. Did you know that? U.S. treasuries that were issued in a German mark and Swiss franc. They weren't even issued in U.S. dollars. The United States was doing this. Look them up. They're called Carter bonds. Right? That's how much the people hated the dollar. They didn't like it back then. They didn't like it now. There's never been a time when they like the dollar. Actually, there's never been a time since the Federal Reserve's existence has anybody ever liked the dollar. But when you don't have any other choice, what are you going to do? If you want to work, like if you showed up tomorrow at work and said, I don't want the dollar, what are they going to do? I was like, oh, I guess you're out on the street, bro. See ya. Right? You have no other choice. There's nothing else out there to use. Now, we want to use Bitcoin. We want to use gold. We want to use all kinds of millions of other things. Hell, we could even use seashells if we wanted. But they don't take taxes in anything other than dollars, and there's nothing else that you're going to be able to do after you sign a W-2 other than to get paid in dollars. And there's nothing else at the grocery store that they'll accept other than dollars. And the banking system is nothing but dollars, and the entire international concept of monetary finance is done in dollars, and there's nothing you can do about that. I want to deal in Bitcoin. I want to deal in gold. Sure, let's do it, man. I'm down. Come up with a good system. I'll do the whole digital thing. But I also understand Gresham's law. And the moment that you give me the opportunity to hoard gold, I will. I'll take it all. If you have dollars in the system and there's gold in the system and you're saying, hey, we can use either one of them, yoink. It's going to go on a one-way street. I'm sorry, man. I don't know what to tell you. Right? Because that's the way I feel about it right now. You know, I don't know why would I change. Because I understand what's Gresham's law. And when you have a good currency and a bad currency, and the bad currency is being used, that good currency is going to get hoarded away every single time. Mm-hmm. See, once you understand it, then it's a lot easier to deal with it. It's a lot easier to deal with the situation. People who have theorized, wrote books, come up with ideas, given lectures on how it is that they are planning on changing the whole dollar system into something else. Great theory, and it's awesome energy to kind of get into, to understand what it is that's happening and the possibilities that goes on out there. But then the reality of the situation is so much different. Oh, well, let's read some comments, man. Scoot over a little closer. There we go. All right, go like the thumbs up and come back and please and thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Definitely hit that like button. We got 265 people watching with 80 thumbs up. I will break down anything for the monetary policy here, the credible threat theory. If you want me to go over something that you need me to clear up, or I don't know, talk stuff, I don't know, whatever you want to do. All right. Productivity increases our standard of living, doing more with less. Yeah. I'm going to cruise down here to the bottom and get to the updated. Okay, M Rider 777. So we are in the pain and misery phase of the Cantillon effect. When does the Cantillon effect complete its cycle and start over? Well, I mean, I don't, what did it say? We're in the pain and misery. I don't even think we're in the pain and misery phase of it yet. Like, to be honest, you think about it, the world is sending us a massive amount of their production, and we send them an empty paper promise. The pain and misery starts when that ends. Right now, we have one of the most luxurious, awesome existence that could ever possibly be here in the United States. We just don't really give it any kind of credit. I mean, you know, I see people out there who are homeless. They got cell phones and beer and EBT cards, and, you know, they're laughing and joking. And, you know, I'm sure some of them are really miserable. I mean, I imagine most of them are pretty miserable. But, you know, there's some people in this world who are really miserable, who really live in poverty. They don't get to drink beer and talk on cell phones. So I think about how it is that we live here in the United States, and we have an incredibly luxurious experience. This ain't no joke. This is an awesome place to be. There ain't no place else in the world that lives like this. I mean, maybe some live like this, but not like this. Right? The world sends us their production. We send them an empty paper promise to pay them more empty paper promises. That was funny that day that Donald Trump said that China was the cheap ripper offerer, which I still haven't found the definition of what a cheap ripper offerer is. But to think that China is ripping us off when we send out empty paper promises, being backed by more empty paper promises for the hard work, the production, the resources, the skills, the labor of foreign nations in order to live this luxurious life? I don't know. Maybe I got backwards. I don't know. You know? So no, we're not. We're in the absolute pleasurable, dancing around like party time, being belligerent riot party phase. That's what we're in. All right, Simon actually makes a good point. Even the homeless live well in America. That's how bad we're doing. Yeah. No, I'm not getting, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's probably some homeless people out there who are really suffering, and I'm not trying to say that, even being homeless is an awesome place to be in this country. I'm not saying that it's awesome. What I am saying is like there's some people in this world who really suffer the consequences of being in a poor country. I don't think this is one of them. I mean, there's opportunity that just screams in the face of every single person out there, and hardly anybody takes advantage of it. And here it is, like, for everybody. Anybody can do it. Right? You don't need no education. You don't need nothing. You just need the will and the drive and the want to go do it. And here it is, opportunity everywhere. And so many people just waste it. Waste their time, waste their energy, waste their effort. Yeah. And usually it's on power pendulums that don't even manifest into anything that benefits them. All right. If you're liking this, keep hitting the like button, guys. All right, Cody, it's great to see you up in here. American Dream. Yeah, the American dream, what is that? Like, I know it's like somebody else's delusion of what an American dream is, but I had an American dream, right? I wanted to be able to have a house that I could raise my family in the neighborhood that I grew up in. Here I am. You know how hard that was to do with no college education, barely graduated high school. I was drunk, broke, had nothing, was deep in debt at 40 years old. I'm 48 now, right? You know the amount of effort that I had to go through, the sacrifice that I had to do? The overwhelming like thought and focus of like achieving this goal. And then when I got there, it was so overwhelming that I wasn't even excited about it. Right? To think that it can't be done, no, it can be done. It can be done. Anybody can do it. I mean, here I am. Like, what do I have? I work a day job. I got a YouTube channel. I work side hustles. I do everything I can to try and get some money. And I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just putting out a little too much effort to compete against. I don't know. Like, I'm not that smart. There's people out there who could really take what they know and have their skills and really excel with it, but they don't. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if it's their own limitations or if it's family's expectations of them that's limiting them. Anyway. The problem is we tax the poor to give tax breaks to. Yeah. I save all my money for my kids. If people expect more inflation in the future, they'll load up on goods today and demand higher return on their investments. That's right. And which will actually manifest into the reality of inflation. Inflation expectations is a self-fulfilling prophecy. That longer it lingers, yeah. But to be honest, with someone must be earned by them. There's no future for this country. No, I don't. I kind of disagree with that. Like, I mean, I think like to think about the country as a whole and say, see, here's the problem that we face is that the people in this country have this feeling and this expectation that the average everyday job would be enough. All right. And there was a time when it was like A buddy of mine told me about how his mom was a waitress here, and as a waitress, it took her a while, but she was able to come up with a down payment for a house. Now, that was something that she wasn't the only one. There was other people who could do stuff like this. Being disciplined, and even today, you could probably do it if you were incredibly disciplined, right? Like really focus in. Don't spend that money on anything other than the absolute necessities and put everything into the bank and, just really focus in on it. You might be able to do it, but you got to be really, 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 really know what you're doing, right? Most people don't know how to do that. Most people want to enjoy some of their work, right? They want to drink beer, they want to go to the bar, they want to go to a game or concerts or buy new cars or whatever it is, right? So understanding that there was a time when you could have had an average job, right? Working down at the lumberyard. That job, with a little bit of discipline, would have been able to get you a house. In fact, you could even build your own house. It wasn't that hard. Like in the early 80s, you could do this. Yeah, even probably going into the 90s, you could probably done it. You could build your own house. These are things that you just can't, the country doesn't exist like that anymore, right? People don't really build their own homes. I mean, there are some people who probably do, but for the most part, they're very, complicated now. They're not exactly the, just stick it together, over the weekends and, build it over the course of a year or whatever. There are some houses do that. And in fact, I know one guy who's building a pretty good size house just like that. It's right on, I'm watching him do it over the course of the last 4 years, 5 years now, build this house. But he's got the roof on it. He's getting the siding on it. So all the windows are in it. I mean, he's essentially got the thing dried in, and pretty soon he'll be working on the inside. It'll be a long time, but he's doing it all by himself, and it's a beautiful home. That is unheard of. Like, nobody does that, right? Very few. There's a couple of people on the channel who talk about it, doing it, but again, most of the houses are being built by big-time home builders, or, at least professional home builders, and they're not being done by an individual. So we just don't live in the country anymore. Not that one. But we do live in a country in which that we have internet. We have things like DoorDash, side gigs of all kinds, all right? Gig economy. There's so many ways, so many opportunities. There's so much to do out there that you can go and generate some revenue. To think that, it's difficult, that's in your own head, right? It's because you haven't learned how to do it. Like, so many people are doing this. It's like it's not hard. Yeah. I mean, it is hard to build up a YouTube channel, and I mean, being able to do this was great, but it took me a long time to build up not only the video base, but the community and the subscriber base, and eventually have enough video content that was viewed so that I can actually monetize it, to get to the point that now, being able to generate some revenue by coming out and making videos. But it took a long time of building this up. I watched guys build business for a couple of years before it became profitable. I think, yeah, I did the same thing with videos. I did years worth of videos before it ever was monetized. Just doing them just like as if I was making money. I was just enjoying doing them. So this is like how you can make it in this world today, is that you just don't rely on your day job, because it's not enough. A good job sucks. It's not enough. You got to do all kinds of other things. And I know that's not like exactly like good news for a lot of people to hear, because they want to do less with their world, or in that working world. They want to do more with their personal world, I guess I should say. Like, they don't want to participate in the out there trying to hustle money, chase it down, go and do whatever, like the sales do the work. They want to have more time to go surfing or skiing or doing whatever it is that they want to do with their life that's not working. And to me, it's just like, well, you can want that all you want. I mean, hell, I want it too. But then again, I like to eat. And then I also have a future that I'm worried about that says, hey, man, if you don't do something about it now, you are going to suffer the consequences if you don't have something to fall back on. So it's important to, like, take control of all that stuff and make it happen for yourself. You can't rely on anybody else. The administration isn't coming. They ain't going to work it. They ain't going to work it out right for you. But you can work it out right for yourself. All right. All right. Heather Green, you'll never own nothing. All right. Let's cruise on down here to the bottom. Oh, All right. Kirk, it's a beach condo. You need internet. All right. Live still light on the West Coast. Live. Yeah, yeah, it's still like, I don't know, what time is it? It's 9 o'clock. It probably won't get dark until about 9:30. It'll get dark here pretty quick. All right. D, I am watching utilities, medical industry go up about 18% per year. Salaries are not following the inflation figures. Technology is so advanced, can't believe we can't make houses cheaper. I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, I don't think it's a matter of building houses cheaper. I literally think that we have to view it from the Cantillon effect. That the property, like, there's no better sign of an abundance of money in the system than the separation between the rich and the poor by property ownership and the leases and rents. Right? And we can, like, say, well, if we had more houses, everything would be like fine, right? But that's not the case, because if the economy was different, we would have more houses. We're not in an economy that says, hey, we need to produce a lot of houses. We need it, we feel it, but it's not available to the people out there because the people who buy houses are rich elitists who spend a lot of money on it. Right? It's like a luxurious experience, essentially. If you can't build one yourself, then, having somebody else build one for you is a luxury. And that's what happens when you move too many people into luxurious experiences. So there was a time in this country you could build a house for everybody, right? But that's when we were all working and producing and saving. Think about that. Like, if you were a worker, producer, saver, your neighbor was a worker, producer, saver, the neighbor after that was a worker, producer, saver. You all were worker, producer, savers. It was like, hey, man, let's build you a house. Yeah, boom, we're all worker, producer, savers. Let's make it happen. But now it's just like, no, we're debt consumers and luxurious and inequality. And what's a luxurious experience? The ability to pay somebody to build a house. All right? That's it. That's the way it goes down. I don't know. I think a lot of people want to fix it. I don't know why. I think it's better to just understand it. Like, I don't know what could be done. What can you fix it? How can you fix it? It's like, I don't think you see how that's possible. All right. Where are these things? I've been self-employed since 2003. I never understood how people could go to work for somebody else. Deplorable. I work for somebody else. And I think we kind of talked about this earlier in today's video, at our lunchtime video, in that I actually get a lot of benefit working for somebody else. I mean, for just the off the board, like all the stuff that you typically get if you work for a good company, I get like retirement contributed. That's one really big kicker. It's free money beyond the money that I'm making there. I get health insurance for me and the whole family. That's a lot of money. You know how much it costs for health insurance for me and the whole family? It's a lot of money. And this is, something that I get for working there. I get Social Security, not that I actually really expect it to be there, but I am paying into it. And if it is there, hey, right on. I've contributed into it because I've worked for somebody else my whole life. I get paid vacations. I get paid for going on vacation. I get paid to do that. That is so rad, right? It's the best thing in the entire world. And working at the lumberyard that I do, I get employee discount as well. So not only do I get a income that maintains my way of life, but then I have all these other benefits that come with it that accentuate my life that much more. And on top of it, I have a side hustle that if I was to really push it and tried harder, I could probably duplicate or double my income from that and let go of my side job or let go of my job, my main job. Right? Do you know how free that feels? How free? Like, I like, don't screw that up, man. That's like a really awesome position to be in. The hardest part about it is showing up 8 hours a day every single day. But what else would I be doing? Right? I mean, I'd probably figure it out and go do other stuff, and I'd push the uneducated economist, make like. But this isn't a bad deal, and it's pretty good. And until the kids are grown and out of the house, I kind of like that health insurance thing. That's pretty cool too. Uh, Membership is now $2. Is it? I didn't do that. That must be a YouTube thing. Get rid of your military. Yeah. If I don't have kids, I would be living in a van down by the river. If I didn't have kids, I agree with you. I'd be in the van next to you. All right. Being an employee is only good how long you've been there or if you're union. Eh, I don't know. I guess it's all on your negotiations of your pay and the job that you have taken. There's a million jobs out there. You don't have to work at the one you're at. I mean, if this guy doesn't offer it up to you, go work for somebody else. Who cares? Like, if he's a retired and he's not a good boss at all, he doesn't take care of his employees. Yeah, boink, bounce. Go find another employer. There's a million jobs out there. There's no point in working for somebody you don't like. I like I like the guy I work for. I've known him for a long time. I've known him long before I even worked there. I knew him. So it was just like, of course, like you live in a small community like I do for as long as you do, then you just know everybody anyway. If you don't know them directly, you know them indirectly. So there is no way that you can get away with anything here. um, it's the conversation rate, I think. What are you talking about, Cody? Uh, Brandon Smith, young people in Asia are also euthanasian. All right. I can't read the handle. What did I miss, brother? I don't know. There's a meta trick you can do when you disagree with a position. Play devil's advocate and honestly search for the benefit of pro to the point your position too. Yeah. I always thought, like, when you're debating, it's like to argue their side better than they can do it and then disassemble their argument. Hey, Simon, visiting Oregon for the first time tomorrow, first time out on the West Coast. Well, right on. Are you, there's a Goonies anniversary that is happening right now. So apparently it's the 40th anniversary of the Goonies, and town is absolutely packed. I mean, absolutely packed with people. So anyway, you can come up here and hang out for that. All right. If you did live in the van, what would you do with the money you saved? I would deploy it into capital investments that had a return. And I mean, I would buy a little bit of gold and silver with it just because I like to secure myself away from a third party claim. But most of it, I would probably end up putting into something that would have some sort of interest bearing to it. Whether it be like, depending on how much money that I would actually end up with, I would most likely build up a really decent portfolio of dividend paying stocks. Then I would probably start moving into like real estate, like something outside of the actual physical ownership of real estate investment trust, or ETFs or something of that nature. And then if it was to continue, I would eventually move into actual property ownership. But for the most part, right now, I'm just wanting to take on a capitalist position. It's the least maintenance, other than just being aware of what it is that's out there that you can invest into. But trying to be a property owner, like, you really have to be dedicated to that and really like be willing to travel, pay people, have a good network. I mean, it's not a bad thing. In fact, everybody, literally every single person that I know that made a lot of money, like George Gammon, all the guys at the Rebel Capitalists, all of them did it in real estate. Like every one of them. And like, you ask them, what did you do in it? Real estate. Every one of them. So there's no point in reinventing the wheel. If you really want to make it rich, if you really want a lot of money, you have to become a property owner. There's no other way of going about it. And most of those guys did it by borrowing money and buying cash flowing assets. I'll borrow money to buy rental properties and figure that game out. But me, I'm taking the safe road for right now, just simply because I don't want to deal with the headaches of being a property owner and rental properties. Like, I just, like, right now is not the game that I want to play in. It's a lot of time. It takes away from my family, and I'm just not ready to go into that experience. Dealing with like the other ways of being able to find some cash flow and being able to find that whenever I want. Like, I don't have to take time away from my family for, working on that particular style of research for investments or something like that. That's the direction that I go. Right? It's like path of least resistance almost. Not that I want to, like, I'm not worried about leaning into tension or something of that nature, but I want to spend time with my family. And so if this is what's giving me the ability to do that, that's the direction I would go. You might want to do something different. Like, I say that, you might want to be like, well, I want to do property. Well, go do property, man. Like, go live it up. Yeah, it's like, don't listen to me on that thing. I mean, that's me not wanting necessarily to be into property right now. Oh, it's gonna be getting late here, guys. All right, cruising down to the bottom. 239 people watching with 110 likes. Get it up to 150 likes in the next. Oh, let's see here. Get it up there in the next 10 minutes or so. We'll continue on. Otherwise, we'll call it quits at a hour and 5. All right. The guns tell you to go into the path of most resistance. All right. The most important thing is to be happy. Well, yeah, and this is the thing. Like, I'm learning a lot about being stressed, right? That's the problem that I think I faced most up until the day that I quit drinking, was probably the stress of it all. Like, I felt like a lot of stress. Did I miss a super chat, guys? Let me go back there and check that out. It was a lot of stress that I was facing in my life, and being able to, like, to step away from a stressful experience, and to be able to, like, chill out from it and not let it bother me. Things like driving. I remember my buddy used to get really stressed when driving. And I thought to myself, man, how do you deal with your day when every time you get out of your car you're just like pissed off about being on the road? And I'm thinking, man, I don't get those experiences. Like, I don't have that. And then I realized it's just him. It's just the anxiety. Maybe his mom did it or something like that, and so he carried it as well, or his dad did it. And so this is like the stress that a lot of people carry. Well, with that is like, survival mode kind of stuff, and you're just like stressed out all the time. Well, then you're not making good decisions. You're not really moving in the right direction, and everything is like really difficult. I'm sorry. I forgot why I even got into that. Okay. What does it say here? It says, see me rolling. So if the inflation expectation is what directs our spending and investments at level of the average person. So inflation expectation is what directs our spending and investments at the level of the average person. Well, I mean, think about it. Yes, because inflation expectation is essentially the key to everything, right? Like, if you don't think that there's going to be any inflation going into the future, then you wouldn't be stressed about buying that item today, or even really stressed about how much of a return you get on your investment. Like, you just wouldn't be stressed because inflation is low. And this is the problem that the Federal Reserve was facing, because their monetary policy is that whole thing, like people not worried about inflation and inflation being low, and then the monetary policy close to the lower bound of zero, and the neutral interest rate also being close to zero, and all this stuff was down there next to zero, was screwing with the Fed bad. They couldn't work their monetary policy. If they went into a downturn, they couldn't go down with the Fed funds rate. They were at the lower bound of zero. So we had this huge expansion, greatest, longest expansion in history, because they weren't using monetary policy through interest rates. They were using forward guidance, job owning, quantitative easing, pushing out a lower for longer, zero interest rate policy for the foreseeable future. And people thought for sure, knew that there would be inflation back then. I know, I was one of them. I screamed hyperinflation, went out and dumped all my money into silver. But it didn't happen. So inflation expectation is the key to it all. Yes. All right. We got Thomas Crown. I have my rental properties pay my wife's new Tahoe. Would be an example of Cantillon's diving into luxuries. Yes, that's exactly right. So here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you can afford it or not. That's not the point. All right. The point being is that it was a move into a luxurious experience. The moment that you do that, what you are doing is you are increasing the consumption. The consumption then increases the prices. Once the prices move up, it becomes very difficult for the people at the bottom end to then participate in those same purchases. You think about it now, like there was a time people could go buy cars, right? Well, now cars are like $50,000. And they're super expensive vehicles. Only really the rich can buy them, or you have to lease them, or you're not going to be able to like own them outright. It's very difficult to do that. Like you have to have a lot of money. See, I could go out and buy a new car. Right now I could. And I would love to drive a new Camaro around. Like that would be like just, I could see myself doing it. But the problem is I know that's exactly the reason why we have separation between the rich and the poor is because we have that move into a luxurious experience. I don't need it. See, if we want to save the nation, if we want to save the economy, we have to be producer savers. So I drive a 97 Suburban and I save my money and I move it into capital investments and I'm moving it into my property, right? Property ownership, capital investments. See, I understand the Cantillon effect. I can't make you do it. And most likely, I can't expect anybody else to not go and buy a Tahoe. Right? Like, I mean, I want a Camaro, right? I mean, like, why wouldn't somebody want a Tahoe? I mean, if we were selling those Tahoes to China, yeah, buy as many Tahoes as you want, but we don't sell them to China. We buy stuff from China. If we were exporters of stuff, net exporters as opposed to like having a trade deficit where we import more stuff than we export, if we were exporting more stuff than we imported, I'd say buy all the luxurious stuff you want, right? It's only a matter of time before it'll eventually flip, but during that time, buy it up. Why not? Cantillon effect is somebody's going to do it. Why not live it up during that time? Here's the problem. If you don't want the Cantillon effect, if you don't want it to happen, then what it looks like is a boot on the face of humanity forever. That's what it looks like. They can't let you buy the luxurious experience. They can't let you build that business up too big. They can't let you have a business that doesn't get nationalized or something of that nature. This is how they prevent the Cantillon effect, is government literally just takes it from you for the greater good. Essentially it is, right? I mean, some people are going to benefit from that anyway. That's why I'm saying don't try to fight it. Just understand it and position yourself accordingly for it. I don't blame you for going and buying the Tahoe, man. I don't. I don't blame anybody for going and, enjoying their money. That's how it goes. It's just the way it works. But at the same time, I'm going to also explain it that that's the reason why we have this huge separation between the rich and the poor and why it's so difficult on the people. It's because of that. All right? I don't know. Like, I mean, I wish I could explain it to you so you feel better about it, and I hope you don't feel bad, but ultimately, your luxurious experience is separating you from the rest of the people, and they are going to have a harder time getting on the other side of the wedge because of it. Now, it's their job to figure out what they need to do about that. It's not your job to prevent it from happening. Remember that. It's their job to figure it out. It is not your job to prevent it from happening. If you want to buy a 97 Suburban and stash your money away into capital investments and try to think about how it is that you're going to become the property owner, that's up to you, man. Go live it up, man. That's like That's your job. That's what I'm doing. And thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. I hope I don't sound mean or arrogant or anything like that, because I just don't want to sugarcoat it. This is the reality of it. This is what I've learned, and this is what I share with you guys. All right. Vacation places like Thailand, what kind of economy are those? They didn't. Oh, I got this damn thing right in my way. They didn't. What does it say? They don't produce cars. They produce experiences and tours. Yeah. Well, that's any way you get new money in. Like, that's essentially their way of doing production, is they have tourists coming in and sending them money. But the moment that the tourists turn off, so does the new money, and they fall into pain and misery, right? So you got to have something like, really, ultimately, the position that you really want to be is the person who distributes. You want to be the distributor, because if you're the king distributor, nothing moves without, like, you're part of every transaction. Right? That's why it's like, you don't need to manufacture, you don't need to buy, you just need to move from point A to point B. And if you can do it safely, effectively, efficiently, and better than anybody else, like, then you're going to be in the money. That's why those countries that mastered shipping were able to do so well. Like the whole idea of tulip mania in Holland was because of the ability of the nation to be a shipping hub. And they had all kinds of new money coming in, and with all this new money, they just dumped it into stupid experiences, and part of that ended up moving into the damn tulip bulbs, thinking that they were going to go up in higher. They're looking for a place to put their money, and they're like, oh man, this thing's going for 1,000, it's going for 2,000, it's going for 10,000, it's going for 20,000. Yeah, and they're like, well, we got to put it somewhere, so they dumped all their money into a damn flower bulb. Right? Because people kept buying, and then one day they were done buying them. The money was like not going to be there. It was like, right? The whole thing crashed like Beanie Babies. It's getting dark out here, guys. Alrighty. How far did we get into this? We got 128 likes. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for hitting that like button and being part of the live stream. We got 249 people watching with $10 in super chats. We were breaking down monetary policy, breaking down the credible threat theory, breaking down some of the things that are happening right now within the economy, within the administration, and the fear and uncertainty and doubt, and how it is that they use that fear, uncertainty, and doubt to essentially push the monetary policy in the direction in which that they want it to go. Remember, they can use specific sentences. They know exactly what it is that they need to say in order to adjust asset prices, and whether or not they want to make it monetary tightening or monetary easing. And again, it's all done by the communications. So, what does that say? I bought CLON. What is it? Where are my damn glasses? I keep taking them off. CLOV, Cloven, ACI, and the dips for move, and the Cloven had upgraded this week from hold to buy. I don't think any country's military can take a year off, though, but it would, in one way, end all what country's problems as it would exist anymore. It would end all of that country's problems. Yeah, I don't know about that one. All right, the camera just made it look like it's still daytime. Well, I got this computer that I turn on like that, so get the screen lit up. Old man eyes. Oh yeah, old man. It's almost dark on the West Coast. Yeah, it's almost. What time is it? 9:30. Yes, I said it would get about 9:30. Oh, infamous NYC, you had to hit me up with the $5. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate the super chat and all the support. I tried involving my family into family-owned business multiple times. It's near impossible to get people into that mindset. You're built with it. Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I have found. Like, when it comes to being partners with people, like, I learned a valuable lesson from a buddy of mine who loved getting into business with people. Absolutely loved it. And he would work hard. He would work really, really hard. And it was amazing. He would have the most amazing things happening, right? Like he would make connections, talk to people, be running routes. It was just amazing. Like I was like, all of a sudden, he's just spontaneously doing business. And he would always incorporate somebody into his business, right? You know, that somebody had a property and he'd look at their property and figure out how it is that that property could be making some money, and he would show them and build it up and make all the connections and make it all happen. And he did this time and time again, but the story always went the same way. See, he would get this thing up and running, and whoever he partnered up with it would end up doing a lot of work. In fact, they started doing all the work. And my buddy would sit back and would be making the connections, making the calls, doing all the thing, while his partner is sacrificing all his time into the whatever business it is that's going on. And eventually the partner would get pissed and he would take what he got and move on to the next business. And he would not feel bad one little bit about ending or severing that partnership. And that's the way he worked it. And sometimes he would make a lot of money for a while before the person would finally get pissed and say, I'm not doing all this work. Right? I saw it multiple times. I saw it happen. That's why I was just like, he asked me, I want to go in business. I said, does this business end at the end of the day? If we're done at the end of the day, I'll do it. But if it ain't ending at the end of the day, I ain't doing it, because tomorrow it's going to be a whole different business deal. See, everybody finds their way. All right. What's next in this tariff war after July 19th? I don't know. I still don't know what tariffs it is that we're talking about yet, because we still haven't figured out the workarounds, the exemptions, the timelines, the negotiations. We have no idea what tariffs are out there. We definitely got elevated inflation expectations. So that's one thing I definitely know about the tariffs, is that we're going to have elevated inflation expectations. Well, you guys keep hitting me up with these super chats, and I'll just stay out here all night. All right, Michael Bruce, thank you so much for the $4.99. Well, thank you. He says, you guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. What up, UE? All right. What is that, Brennan? Is that? Yeah, Brennan. Julio, since we would be printing more money and increasing inflation, are you, okay. Let's take it back for just a second before we continue on. I'm not a believer that printing money causes inflation. I've said it time and time again in my channel. I don't believe that's the case. Quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4 failed to produce an inflationary scenario that the Federal Reserve is looking for. So just the printing of money doesn't cause inflation. And here's another thing. Just because you retract the money doesn't necessarily cause deflation. Right? They're retracting the money supply right now. We're going through quantitative tightening, and we still have inflation. It's disinflation. The inflation is going up at a slower pace, but it's still going up. Right. All right. Increased money. Are you invested in deflationary assets? Gold, silver, digital assets like Bitcoin? Well, those are generally inflationary protecting assets, because when you have an inflationary pressure built into the economy, or going into the economy, I shouldn't say built, but somewhat built, going into the economy, generally hard assets, limited assets, commodities, stuff like that, those do very well. So when I think about a deflationary protection, I want to be close to cash. Like if you're going into deflation, that means prices are getting cheaper. You don't want to hold any asset. You want to be in cash. As things are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper going into the future, you're stocking up as much cash as you can to take advantage of that. So if there was a deflationary expectation that I truly believed was happening within the economy, I would sell all my stuff and get into cash so that I could take advantage of that. I don't necessarily believe that we are going to have deflation as much as we are going to have moderately above 2% for some time, until we hear from the Federal Reserve strategy. Moderately above 2% for some time has been my constant since essentially they stated it back in August of 2002. I mean, really, John Williams stated it in that speech, Monetary Policy Strategies for a Low Neutral Interest Rate World, but it didn't actually become part of policy until August of 2020. All right. We got infamous NYC again. Even if you're not wanting to start a business, buy dividend stocks and be partner in someone's business, and you can sell covered calls for income too. Yeah. And see, I think that's probably like for a lot of people out there wanting to know what to do, I can't tell you. I can't tell you what business to start because I don't know what skills you have. I don't know what interest you're going to be passionate about in order to get that business started. But start a business, start something to make $1. Then double that dollar, then double the $2 to $4, double it to $8, you get where I'm at. Right? So that's like probably the key to it. If you're not going to do that, be really, 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 really good at your business and get into sales where you can get a commission. All right. If you can get a commission based sale, I don't have commission based. I wish I did. If you could get into commission based sales, the more you work, the more you sell, the more money you make. This is like, to me, this is probably one of the best things that you can do as far as a day job goes, is to get into sales. It's the only upward opportunities for the better you sell. Right. And so to me, this is how you do it, right? Business of some sort, side hustle, figure out a way to make money that is not a day job, and then also have a day job until you figure out how to make enough money to not have the day job, right? If you don't want the day job. Like I like having my day job. Right? You do that, you start moving into capital investments, right? You start moving into the dividend paying stocks. Very important because they pay you to hold it. That is so good. You don't have to just worry about the business doing well. Like you're partnered up with the business where you're buying stocks. But when you're buying into a stock that actually pays you, like I just sold all my Altria stocks a while back. And I got like the last dividend payment I got off of it was like $70. Now, that wasn't huge, but if you have a portfolio of like, I don't know, 100 of those things that you have built up over your lifetime, think about the dividend checks that are going to be coming in. I mean, that is like, that's awesome to think. And it didn't take me that long to build up that portfolio in Altria. And I was dollar cost averaging, buying like $50 every other week, once a month. And I just kept loading up on it for years. And so you do that consistently. Like no matter what, pay yourself first. By paying yourself first, that means you buy things like that. You buy the piece of silver, you buy a treasury bond, you buy a, dividend paying stock, you put money into your house. This is how you pay yourself first. Get into that mindset, learn that, and then learn to be a trader. There's so many people out there who talk about trading. Go and learn how the market works. And it's not that complicated. And there's a lot to know. Reading charts can be overwhelming at times. And if you let it get to overwhelming, then that's what it will be. But there's plenty of people out there who do quite well at trading stocks. And, if that's a position that you want to take, there's a way you can make money doing it. I don't necessarily recommend it, but the opportunity is out there for anybody to go do that. And, I don't know, who knows what you can find from that. Guys, I am having a hell of a time reading. All right, do you use the lumber and building market to stock trade? I don't. I dollar cost average. I don't really trade. Yeah, I don't really trade stocks. I have a piece of silver right here on my desk. Good old Australian kangaroo piece. Good for you, Cody. Yeah, I like my recent story. I had a guy accuse me of making it up, and I laughed. I just thought that was funny as hell. So a lot of you know that I bought the Suburban with 100 ounces of silver. So essentially, it was securing a loan for the truck, right? And now I borrowed $3,000, used the silver as collateral. I gave the guy 10 10-ounce bars, and I said, hey, man, I'm going to sell you these bars for $30 or $300 a piece, but I'm going to buy them back from you for $330 a piece, and I'm going to pay a 10% interest. Now, a lot of people say, oh, that's a bad deal, but I think about the Suburban. It cost me $3,000 right now if I had the cash or I gave up the cash, or it cost me $3,300 over the course of 10 months. Right? I think I would rather keep that or have the $3,000 so that I could use it to do other things, like especially pay off debts and stuff like that, and then figure out a way to come up with the $330 to buy the ounces of silver back. And really, I even thought about it in my head. It was just like, I can find other people to buy that silver. I don't need to buy it back. Like, I essentially sold the silver off for $300, or yeah, $300 for each 10-ounce bar. But really, the deal that the guy wants, he was just like, if you want to give me $330 for each one of these 10-ounce bars, anybody can go and buy them. Well, nobody knows about it except for me and then a couple of people at work. So some of the guys at work who have never bought silver before decided that they were going to jump on this deal when they saw that silver is now trading at $35 an ounce. And I said, sure, man, go ahead. Go buy, it's just like, I said I would buy them back from them, but I'm going to do it over the course of time. And if you want to buy one of them, go for it. So right now I'm buying my silver back essentially for the deal that I had, essentially contracted with the guy. But my buddies are able to take advantage of this and get silver well under spot price because they know who I am and they want to relieve that debt from, or at least relieve them of that silver so that guy can get his cash back. This is like, it worked out so well. This is how you do it with the network, right? This is how, like, people might find flaws or find, discrepancies or find problems or something within, this story. Whatever. This is the way it's going down, right? I took 100 ounces of silver. I gave it to guy. Guy gave me cash. I bought the truck. I told the guy, hey, I'm going to buy the silver back at a 10% interest. So I'll buy each ounce back for $33 or the 10-ounce bars for $330. And I got guys at work who are buying them from them as well. So this is the way it went down. And I can do it. And it's not the first time that I've bought a truck with silver. Like, in fact, it seems like 50% of my vehicles I buy with silver, All right. UE. You missed my super chat, bro. Okay, hold on. Is that Larry Bird? Okay. There it is. All right. UE, this is off topic. You stopped drinking. What kept you disciplined to stay sober, especially in the early days? Thank you. Larry, well, the thing is that you have to come to the understanding that you're going to do it, right? I mean, you finally have hit the rock bottom. That's it. You're like, I don't want to go any further than this. This is as deteriorated as I want to go. Like, after this, if there's any more deterioration, I don't want to live this way. Like, I just want to do it. So you get to that point and, you start making some pretty tough decisions. It's just like, okay, so I'm going to give it up and I'm going to change my life and all this other stuff. Most people don't give it like any kind of real consideration. They'll say, okay, I'm going to do that for like a day or two, and then they go back to drinking because, drinking's a hell of a lot easier to deal with your problems than actually deal with your problems. So I knew that it was going to be tough because I tried quitting a bunch of times. Like, I tried quitting a bunch of times. And every time it was the same. Like, I would be really good about it for the first few days, but then like something would happen where I would want to be hanging out with my buddies, or a beer would get cracked and I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll have one. And then it was like, after you have one, it's no big deal. You just have all the rest of them too. And this is how I ended up going. This is like, I couldn't keep my shit together, like, okay, I'll only drink on the weekends. No, couldn't drink on the week, only on weekends, because there would be times during the week or whatever. So I just came to that understanding. I'm addicted. I'm addicted. So when I feel like I want to go get a drink, that's what addiction feels like. Yeah, that's right. That's what alcohol addiction feels like. You want to go get a drink. So you get to sit there and you get to feel it. And you know that it's present and you know it's there. Most people don't want to feel that. They don't want to deal with that. They don't want to sit in that cloud of energy thinking this is what addiction feels like. It's weird. It's this weird fog that's all up in you, right? You can't think about other things. All you seem to want to think about is that. And it doesn't serve you any purpose. There's so many other things out there that you would rather be doing. There's so many hobbies and projects and, places and things and all whatever. And the only thing you could do is literally stare at the floor below the TV as it's babbling on about something you're not even caring about, as you think about how much you would rather be drinking right now. That's what addiction feels like, right? That's what addiction, that's what you get to feel like, because that's what it is. It's not easy. It's not like, it was just like, how do you not want to drink? I want to drink every single day. 10 years it's been since I've had any alcohol. 10 years. Never once. Never cheated, never anything like that. I don't even remember the last time I drank. Like, I don't have a date. So I just know about the time that I gave up, that I quit. And I remember being mad. I remember being really, really, really upset. Like, I wasn't handling it well. But I was mad. I was just like, I got power mad. Yeah, it was just like people were like, it was like, have a beer. I'm like, no. All right. What are you going to do? Eventually, it's not so bad, right? You find it's a little easier to do the simple things in life, like getting up and tying your shoes. Those things aren't so hard anymore. You do that every day, time passes by and, you figured out what it was that was getting you to drink in the first place because, it's not just a matter of giving up the alcohol. There's a whole lot of work you got to do, especially if you drank a long time, like from like your early days, like your early 20s or something like I did. Because you got to understand, you were drinking to cover something up, and you've hidden that from yourself the entire time. So if you're 40 years old, you got a lot of work to do to figure out what it is that's happened in there that, got you to try and cover it up the entire time. How do you stay disciplined? You got to be committed to that. You got to be committed to that experience. This is what it's like to be addicted. I know it. It sucks. It's mine. Don't let anybody take it from you, right? You own that. You own it, right? More than anybody else's. There ain't not a single person who's going to come up and say, "Here, let me own your addiction, your cloud, your fog," right? There ain't nobody who's going to come and own that for you. You're the only person who can. And anybody who comes in to try and interfere with that, you got to, no, sorry. This is mine to deal with. Because if you own it and don't let somebody else try to own it, you'll be much more likely to follow through, to keep it. Right? Being addicted ain't no joke. It screws people up for a while, some people forever. And, I think about where I've gotten over the last few years, where I've come to. And I know there is no way in the world that I would be sitting here doing this if I had continued drinking. This would not be happening. None of this. You know, when you're ready to make a change in your life, it's a matter of just changing. Just do it that day. Right? People say, like, you ever think you'll ever drink again? No, because if I think about that can of beer, what I think about is the mountain of beer cans that was sitting behind my garage that I had built. All the money, all the time, all the effort wasted into that mountain of beer cans that was there. I think to myself, I'm going to build me another one. Big old mountain of beer cans just like that one. Am I really going to do that? You crack that beer and you'll be well on your way to starting one. So, no, I got my visual of the mountain of beer cans that says, nah, you just don't get to drink beer anymore, not like that. Don't get me wrong, I drink non-alcoholic beer. Some of them aren't too bad. They're getting better at them. But I haven't had any alcohol. I just don't drink. And my life has only gotten better because of it. Now, whether it was that on a combination of a bunch of other things, out of all the stuff, giving up the alcohol has been the greatest. Yeah. being able to move into a house back in the old neighborhood, that's pretty cool. That's awesome. Having this channel, being able to travel, going on speaking engagements, that's way awesome. Giving out the alcohol, way above all that. Right? For how it makes me feel about my life, about everything that I got going on, giving up the alcohol is superior to all of it. I smoke cigars, but can put them down whenever. I used to drink a 30-pack of beer each night. Yeah, I've done it. All right, I've been offered a vape so many times. Cody, stay away from the stuff, bro. Like, there's nothing you need in your life of poisons that's going to benefit you in any way, man. If I could go back, I would never have smoked cigarette. I never would have drinking caffeine. I would have, like, I would have stayed away from all the stuff. Everything that is a stimulant or depressant or clouds your mind in any way or makes you feel goofy, I would have stayed away from all that stuff. Yeah. Like, there's a guy at work that I know who's never ever had alcohol, and I just, like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to ever give up all the memories that I had with all the everybody, all my friends and bros and stuff when I was drinking and having a great time and hanging out. I wouldn't give up those moments for the world. No, I love them. But to be able to have a life in which that she said that I've never once ever been drunk, wow, that to me, like, is just amazing. I didn't grow up in a household like that. Everybody got drunk all the time. All right. So even the concept of that is just like, whoa, wow. That, like, you can, like, how do you like how do you feel because of that? Like, I feel like a weight because of my alcohol. Like, it goes away. It's going away. But I mean, I felt it, especially in the early days. It was heavy. Like, how do you not have that weight? You know, that to me was just fascinating. So if you can do that, Cody, go through life without any of that crap in your life, without any of that poisons, dude. All the money that gets wasted into it, you put that into silver, man, I guarantee you, Cody, you're going to be killing it when you're an adult. You stay away from all that shit. Alright. Vaping is pretty terrible on the teeth, like vaporizing cotton candy and misting it over them. Huh. Phones is this generation's alcohol. Yeah. All right. I stopped at 50. I see myself around better people now, but less social in my reality. Yeah, and that's something that I had faced too, is that really all the people that I knew and I hung out with all essentially drank. And so as I gave up drinking, I was giving up hanging out with a lot of those people because I was just staying away from those particular environments. And yeah, it's just like I kind of found myself like I didn't really have many friends. And the people that I was making contact with and like getting to know were like people like George Gammon and when like meeting these people on YouTube and like and getting in this like whole different culture of people. Now I find myself like even when I'm doing like I did the play, not too like a few months ago, back in February, beginning of February, I was in a play, and all the people who were in the play, they're all professional people. Like they all had career professions, forget like biologist and professor up at the college, and like these are all like not just screw around hippies or something like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a couple of those there as well. But, a lot of these people were like professional people. And I'm thinking, man, this is so awesome. Like, this is the type of environment that I want to be around is professional people trying to push their excellence as much as they can, sharing in that with the world, man. This is it, man. This is what I like to do. And so I find myself doing that. Well, when I was drinking, I never would have participated in any of that. You can't go to rehearsals drunk. It doesn't work like that. So yeah, your whole world changes. Everything changes. I went through a stage of having to give up my friends because I wanted to pursue excellence. I didn't hang out with anyone till I joined the one rental at a time group. Well, good for you, Jack. I mean, that's a hell of a good group to be with. The ORAT Mike Zuber has really done a number. I have to give it to him. Like, I mean, credit is where credit is due. His community is tight. Like, they are a good group of individuals to be around. I love going to his conference. He's done it twice now, both times, just excellent experience. I could not recommend it enough. I hope I get to go to it again next year. It was just like it's so much fun, and again, like the community there is just like they're tight. They're a good group. All right, Michael Bruce for $4.99. Time is our economy of life. Yeah, you're right. Time is like I think about our physical reality. Like economics is the mechanical form of consciousness. If you take in this idea that we're all a single conscious, right? We're all the single consciousness and sharing a single energy. We're all this eternal, ever eternal, eternal external being living this eternal life. I don't know how to quite say it, right? This eternal life has a single energy, and we all share like essentially the same thing. You're all like an illusion of my reality, right? This like visions. All right, this kind of concept is really kind of crystal grip and hippie stuff, right? But when you dive into some of the ideas of it, how we're all connected through energy, it makes a lot of sense. But then on top of it, when you think about how we're all connected through the purchasing of items, the creation of items, like I think about these dice right here. You know how much time, effort, energy that it took the world simultaneously at the exact same time in order for these things to make it right here? Like, believe it or not, but I bet in some way, if you were to look at it, you would find how even you had participated in the ability for those things to get here. Right? The people who pumped the gas, who filled the trucks, who made the tires, who built the trailers, who made the yarn, who did the dye, who did the sale, made the computer program, all these people working simultaneously to get these things here. Right? There's no way that there's no way that it cannot be that way. All of us are connected through every single physical item that has been created and sold and purchased. The economy is literally the mechanical form of consciousness. Yeah. Other people's time and other people's money. All right. Cause he's got nowhere to go. Hey Sam, I see you have a comment there that looks pretty like harsh, man. Are you talking about me? All right. I get SS each month and trade stocks for extra cash each month. I bought a PFE. It pays 43 dividend quarter, which I bought lots of shares, which did get upgraded last week to $30. All right. Wow, all us are connected through. I got this spot on my phone that I can't say through what we've built, sold, and purchased. Yeah, oh yeah. Like you think, like even like every single bit of it, the electricity, right? The fact that this computer sits with the light on in front of me, all the truck that I'm sitting in that was made back in 1997, all these things are connected. Every single bit of it. How did the paint get on the damn truck to begin with? Think about all the time and effort and energy that it took just to create the paint and how it took the world simultaneously doing what it does in order to create the situation in which it gets here. I mean, the truck driver who was delivering the paint to the factory that was putting it on the truck stopped somewhere at a mini mart and bought a Pepsi. Right? Think about how that connected to everything else that's going on out there. Some dude who created a Pepsi had part in the paint going on the truck because that truck driver stopped to get a refreshment along the way. He was still connected to it, right? It wasn't deliberate, it wasn't forced, it wasn't even needed, but it was still connected. Everything is. At the speed of money. If you make too much money with that, Michael, they will take your Social Security from you. Oh, Sam talking? I mean, yeah, if Sam's giving us a hard time and making the chat upset, we can just delete him if you like. I mean, you guys vote on it. I don't see him up in here right now, so. Let's see here. Do you ever worry about the Cascadia substruction zone given where you live? Yeah, like cutting loose and tearing out and ripping through the entire, valley and ripping us all out to sea or something like that. Is that kind of the idea behind it? No. I don't really worry about stuff I can't control. Like that's another part of like alcohol is that most people are trying to control things in their life and they put a lot of importance on controlling things, and this is really where they get frustrated and upset. And the problem, one of the things I definitely learned is that you have to accept the things you cannot control. You have to accept it. Like there are certain things out there that there's nothing that you can't get the people to behave right. You can't get your boss to behave right. You can't get the society to behave right. There's all kinds of things out there that you can't get to go right. That's not up to you. It's just not. There's some things that you just can't control. Once you let it go, that control, it's so freeing. It's like you almost think like you're doing something wrong by letting go of the control. But what you're doing is you're doing something wrong by holding on to it. You're actually slowing down and you're not able to be the real you. You have to let go of all control. Because you really don't have control is an illusion anyway. You don't have it anyhow. It's just it's an illusion. No matter what, there is no such thing as control. Think about it. Like you're driving a car down 55 miles an hour down the road. You've been driving it for years. It's the same car. You know exactly how it operates. There is zero chance of you like mishandling this thing. You know exactly how it operates and traveling 55 miles an hour down the road, and you feel totally in control of your car until it blows a tire. Now you're out of control. All right. Now you might still be able to be in control, but there's a good chance you might not be in control because you never had control in the first place. It was all an illusion of control. At any given moment, boom, it could have been blowing tires, and now you're not in control anymore. So it was never there in the first place. And it's better to understand it in that fashion because then once you realize there has never been control, you only had an illusion of control. Let go of the illusion. It's an illusion. It's not reality. Right? You let that go. Now it's so much freer. You don't have to worry about it anymore. It's just like, whew, fine, the weight's gone. Yeah. Try carrying around heavy bags all day and then try to do work at the same time while carrying heavy bags. It's like hard. Yeah, you gotta pick them up and put them down, pick them up, put them down, pick them up, put them down all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. And it's just like, man, your arms get tired. It gets exhausting. Once you put them down and leave them down and you just walk away from it and you're like, fine, whatever's going to be is going to be. Right? You're free. You're free as you can be. All right, guys, I'm getting tired. Am I missing any super chats yet? Sam's still up in here giving you guys a hard time? All right, so true. Letting go and showing up for things you never would have. Yeah, definitely my last 4 years. One of the things that I found is that everything in life that I have ever wanted, desired, or tried to go for has really kind of ran away from me, and it's very difficult. The moment that I just give up on the whole idea of pursuing it and just say, hey, I'm just going to let it be. If it happens, it happens. It comes from out of nowhere. Like almost like a magical experience. It's just like, wow, I didn't expect it to go down like that. All right. But yet I had it in my head. That's the way, like I had it in my head that I wanted to be on stage, sharing my thoughts, my opinions, out there with the world. I've been invited to go to 3 different conferences. I never pursued any of them. I got invited to go to those things. That is so absolutely amazing. That this entire time I wanted that for my life and I didn't even have to try it. All I had to do was do the things that I was doing already. I had to do it the best that I could. And by doing these things that I was doing on YouTube and doing the research, I got the attention of some people who said, hey man, you want to come speak at my conference? You have a really interesting perspective. I'd love for you to share it with my audience. Holy crap. The whole world changed. I didn't expect it to go down like that. Alrighty, guys. Moving on. We may have been one conscious at once, but why now we have separate DNAs? I don't know. I couldn't tell you all the scientifics about it, but I just know that when I walk into a room, I can feel the energy of that room, right? You can too. You can tell if the people are happy. You can tell if they're sad. You can tell if they're, focused, they're distracted. You can tell as soon as you walk into the room. Now, I don't know how many people have the experience of being able to do something like this, but I can walk into a room and then grab the attention of everybody in the room and command it for the next 3 hours. I do it every single Sunday. I direct their thoughts. I direct the entire night. Every bit of it. We may all have different DNAs, but we all share energy. And that energy, once you understand it, once you recognize it and see it, once you know how to disperse it, display it, absorb it, you start learning into these things, and all of a sudden the world becomes a whole different place that you can experience. Like, think about it. I barely have a high school diploma. Like, I got one, but it was like barely scratched by, barely made it. I have no money from family. I'm not somebody who got a bunch of money from inheritance. I didn't make a bunch of money. I don't have a bunch of money. I'm just some dude out there doing it at the lumberyard, busting it out here on YouTube, and I am sharing in some of the most amazing experiences that you would think only the upper rich elite people would be doing up on stage. Like, I'm up there. Those guys don't look down upon me ever. Never once have I had anybody at the Rebel Capitalist or at the Silver Symposium or at Mike, especially not at Mike Zuber's place. That guy is just nothing but encouraging you to do better, right? But never had I had any of these people ever come to me and say, dude, you're not killing it. You suck. Like, never had I ever heard that. Only thing I ever hear from him was, man, how you doing? Everything going well? How's the family? It's great to see you here. That's the type of stuff they say to me. Because you can be anything you want. It's all in your head. You do realize that, right? Like, literally, anything you want to be is limited by your own thoughts. I wanted to be a famous economist. Well, if you were to ask most people, how do you become a famous economist? They're going to say, well, you're going to have to do a lot of schooling. You're going to have to go a lot of college. If you're going to want to be an economist, out there, spreading your information and sharing it with your ideas with people, you're going to have to do that. No, you don't. All you have to do is believe that you're the economist, and you just go out there and become the economist and just start doing it. That's what I did. Just like everybody else out there who decided one day that they were going to be different from what they had been doing so that they could make the change in their life that they now experience. They did it that first day. They became whatever it was that they wanted to be. Anybody can do that at any given time. Guys, it's getting dark and I'm getting tired and I want to go and lay on the couch with Sarah and watch a movie. I'm not sure what movie she's going to watch, but that's what I want to do right now. So I'm going to read one last comment. Did I miss any super chats, guys? Let me see if I can find out here. Hold on. Oops. All right. So, well, I guess I can't check for the super chats. I hope I got everybody. We got $34.97 of super chats. I hope I caught them all. Sorry if I missed any. We got 224 people watching with 165 likes. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. By hitting that like button, you will get the YouTube algorithm to pick up the video, spread it around for more people to join in. It's always better to have more people joining in, and makes the comment section so much funner to read and conversate in. Justin, we'll all see that rip Rody Opry. Don't know what that one is, but you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Uneducated Economist, you let me know.